Okay, if you know the name of the institute, what does it stand for?
Not sure. I know the webpage, careers in construction.
Yeah, it's the Construction Industry Council. Yeah. And they are representing body in the UK, but I've taken this quote because it's quite representative for a few industries. So here's the quote. Traditionally, the project manager would deliver a project to the required specification. In today's business environment, they have to do more. The dynamic nature of project means the business benefits are reappraised throughout its life, and the project manager must initiate any changes that may be required as part of this reappraisal. So it's as well a notion that nowadays, the old notion where we have the definition and then deliver, that was very desirable. But because we are in a, my colleague describes it as a turbulent economic environment, there is quite a lot to take in. We will look at that later when we look at finance as well. And but and things like that on the project. So you will see that that is actually a frightening thing. Yeah? So we have introduced a lot more uncertainty. But with uncertainty as well, a lot more opportunism. Yeah? So there are a lot of chances as well to get a lot more out what you were thinking up front, you may get out of the project. Yeah? So this is one, and this is a very long one. Okay, here you have to stay with me. A contrasting one. Yeah, and this is, I've given it away. This was actually a project director from the MOD, the Ministry of Defense, and those guys don't trust anybody. So if they do anything, they price it up and try to build it in prototypes too and then cost it against it. Well, actually, maybe it's just this department that I work with. But anyway, I was fascinated by their approach. So here is more cynical. So don't take it too hard. Yeah, this is their reality, not everybody's reality. The project manager is responsible to direct and steer a project through the troubled waters of dishonest suppliers and contractors, with a changing climate of client requirements under the cloud of nebulous company directors, and with a mostly crew of questionable ability and a propensity to rebel against any organization. The project must arrive on schedule using only the cash on board at the start, and resources must be carefully controlled, allowing for all unexpected problems. Okay, short breather. The project manager has this responsibility with senior officers on board who justify their presence by ordering the crew without his knowledge, leaving him with only the authority that he can maintain through the strength of his personality, untiring efforts, and unbounded enthusiasm to the cause, knowing that, should the project be wrecked due to the quicksands of changing authority, the company will, without hesitation, hold the project manager unquestionably and totally responsible. Now this is grim, right? If you apply to this as if you now are desperate to apply at this office, I have to say then there's something, I can see that you are somebody that wants to help others. Yeah? So let's put it that way. So what do you think about that? The two quotes in comparison.
That's still like the old style, isn't it? The project management.
The first
the
one,
MOD is still the old-fashioned, on target, on time, meets clients' expectations, meets the remits of the project.
Yeah.
Whereas previous, more adaptable to change.
So in a way you're saying as well, you are kind of familiar to those points, yeah? So you can see a little bit, maybe not in its full extent, yeah, but...
Just being blunt and honest.
Okay, this is blunt and honest. So this is quite concerning, yeah? So I'm just saying, like, be careful. Don't just work in those companies and accept it as such, yeah? This is not how your work-life balance should look like, yeah? Especially here, you know, like, additional time, efforts, and so forth. Yeah? This is not how it should be. And any other observations?
Most MOD projects fail.
This is another one. Yeah, and on what basis do they fail?
Budget, over time, quality, everything. I mean, the aircraft carrier is one of the examples of MOD.
Yeah, actually, yeah, so just to bring you up to speed, we have at the moment, initially we had 4 aircraft carriers being built, and now we have kind of 3, 2.5. And we have kind of committed to building this third as well, because the money had to be reallocated.
And it would have cost them more not to build it than to build it.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. The irony was as well that it's built from a company, and they knew that the parliament, if the politics shift, it's very likely that they will scrap 1 or 2, or all if they could. So they basically made contractual conditions, which basically meant that if you only want 2, you pay still for 4. So it was quite interesting. But you're spot on. They are delayed now. They are already over time. One is kind of nearly finished, but not equipped yet. So this is really just ship segments being built. Yeah. Okay, so they fail, and you have already said it. It's time and budget. It shows you that they are still being evaluated on the old theory. So as well the observation before, that there's still the traditional way of managing projects is still dominant. Yeah. Okay. And any other thoughts or observations? Very long quote. Will be the only one that is that long on my slides. Wait a minute, let me check quickly. No, I'm pretty sure about that actually. Okay. So a lot to take in. Now I want to go from all these like awareness and the harsh reality that faced us there on the slides to something where we again spark a little bit inspiration, I hope. I say this inspired me. So inspiration is a funny business. Yeah? It doesn't always mean that other people are inspired by it too. Yeah? So I go here on a slippery slope. So how do our dreams and ideas, aspiration, and our ecstatic moments, where we really want to bring something that makes the world a better place, or something like that, a reality. So here it is, the project life cycle. And as I said, I tried to go a little bit with the space race. This is when I grew up, this was what I got taught at school. Yeah? And when I came home and I watched television, there were funky episodes of Enterprise, and stuff like that. Yeah? So I thought that would be the next step, I assumed. Yeah? And this is not too much a political statement about anything else. The spaceman is an interesting bit at the end. Yeah? So when we are in our project life cycle, this is a thing that we can analyze. There's a process behind it. So let's look at the individual stages. So the first stage is a conception phase. And the concept phase includes the following activities, of course. Identifying who the stakeholders are and their relative influence on the project. That is already like cynical. I like to think a little bit beyond the influence. I want to see as well what they may be able to bring to the table. And when we come to finance and budgeting, I will tell you why. Yeah, we have now cool stuff like crowdfunding or stakeholders that chip in with resources and do stuff a lot better for free for you than what you would be able to buy actually for the resources that you have allocated. Then we have determining the stakeholders' expectations, the values as well. This is often a tough one. Yeah? You will see that values are most likely not the same, so how can you accumulate those? Identify the project constraints, of course. Then investigating technical and financial issues to the stage where you can do it already. So in the conception stage, that is still quite easy. Are there already technical solutions, or do we have to invent something? If like a scientist at the university that works in that area, like a research budget to develop something that works. And with this comes as well how they relate actually to the stakeholder expectations and what is most valuable, customer client requirements. Yeah, and indirectly this suggests as well we are managing not just the definition, but the requirements throughout the project. Yeah? So those can be part of our success criteria. Yeah? So a lot of design projects, you will see that actually. Yeah? So if you have product design, fashion design, something like that, we have often requirements. There's a certain idea, and you translate and interpret them And that is a very fine act. As a project manager, consult at those stages with your stakeholders. Yeah? Don't lean yourself out of the window and try to go with your own interpretation only. And then, of course, defining deliverables and their achievement. So when you have actually achieved them, and how you are measuring them. That is as well quite important, most notably to be paid. So that you can say, like, look, I told you on the contract here, this is where we wanted to arrive. I've achieved this, can you please pay me? Yeah? So very simplified, again, we dive into more detail into this. But that is more or less the conception phase. Any questions at this point? Okay, let's have a look at this. So how did that look? It didn't look that way. I didn't get the original. So this is as close as it looked. It was actually a pretty cool conceptual design. So the idea was it was supposed to be like a suit that was this kind of a leather plastic combination from the field. And when you see it, you can move in it. This was a big thing for a spacesuit. Yeah? Oh, by the way, we are investigating a spacesuit. I should have really opened up to this earlier. Yeah, so we tried to develop a better spacesuit as what we had before, and that is inspired really on last week's lecture. Yeah, so anyway, here it is. So there was a concept, and there were certain requirements. It was meant, one of the biggest requirements was that it's usable by normal people. Yeah? So that you don't have to be first a test pilot and, you know, like space diver and things like that. So that you just basically, with a little bit of training, can put the suit on and are ready to go. This was the idea of the new suit. So again, conception stage defined as well on this, certain requirements that gone beyond, but we actually have a look at that in a second. So because what happens, of course, afterwards, with the concept, you go in a feasibility. Now here it depends very much on your project industry. In some industries have actually developed professionals that kind of come in and do the feasibility for you. So so to name a few, in the financial industry you have a project controller. It's a standalone title. This is very American. There's as well the equivalent in the UK. In construction we have QS, quantity surveyor. Yeah? So we have like industries where we have kind of professionalized that as a role, which is interesting. But here is what it is, the feasibility. Investigating technical and financial issues, so it's the same as before, how they relate to stakeholder expectations and what is most valuable. But they start as well now playing around if it's an existing technology with pricing. Yeah? So they allocate kind of budget, and this is very important. If you think of space travel, we have seen more recently very small rockets that bring extremely small satellites as well into orbit. Yeah, it's not very spectacular if you see the rocket launch. It should be the night, and then it's a little bit more spectacular because you kind of see the fuel board burning. Yeah, so this is at least something spectacular. But it has a different aspect. It means as well that the satellites have to be smaller. Yeah, so those could be maybe requirements that you could think of. It's as well other notions. Yeah? So when you talk about financial issues, are there elements with promotion that they're happy to invest more? Yeah? If the return on the investment is higher too, can they go along? A lot of, be careful, you have as well an advisory role in that position. Normally, if you promise them a higher rate of return, which is percentage on the investment, there are many clients that will go with that. Make sure that you have as well this higher percentage margin of return. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah? So if you have 1 million, and now let's take it smaller. We have £1,000 for our project, and you have promised like you get good 12%, a good sport project of investment back, and then you say like, oh, but we have seen this opportunity. We make a little bit of marketing event out of it, and work with the media, and it will cost like 1,500, but you will get 20% back. Now you would be surprised. This is like 50% on top, yeah, just to keep the percentage in mind, for a raise of 8 more percent. Yeah. So you will see a lot of clients will jump on it. Yeah. So there's a temptation if you have clients that are not too experienced with this. So make a case and explain the implications so that you're on the safe side. Because there's a lot of different practices as well. Then you have, of course, defining deliverables. So here you are starting to think already about concrete parts. This depends on how you want to build it. If you do it all by yourself in your garage or something like that, yeah, then it's often sitting together, breaking down what parts you need, what materials may be feasible. If you do it in a product breakdown and you have other assembly parts that come to you, then there may be teams that you have to work with, communicate sizes and details. Here the communication is already quite quintessential. Yeah? And as well what the achievement is, so that you don't sign off when the part comes with a post box or something like that, but when it actually works together, you know, that you have a forerun and see that the parts work with the other parts. Yeah? Then last but not least, approving, of course, the transition to the definition phase. And if you have that, then you have often already a pretty good idea at that stage. Yeah, that you can investigate approach, we have that in many projects. Then you have often already an idea of what you're bidding out. Yeah, or what are the resources that are incoming and outgoing. Yeah. Now, this is now more authentic. This is actually from the Red Bull Stratus jump. Yeah, this was a suit as it was designed with existing parts. Yeah, and they had a few. The newest item is actually kind of the full suit. Yeah, the material that they use there. In the past, it was a hard cast with a protective gear on it, and now they have a suit that literally sits on the skin, which is quite an invention. It means it's a lot lighter and people can actually move in it, which is smooth. Yeah? And you can see they have the huge gadgets that come along with it and so forth. Yeah? So this was kind of the stage that they arrived in. They knew with whom they had to work with, and they knew as well, for example, the helmet and I think as well the gloves, because you have touch pads with heating. That was still proto design. Yeah, they had one glove with heating, and they had gloves with touching inside, so that you can. It's like a touch screen, you know, just in the glove. They had that already individually, but the combination wasn't yet there, so that was the prototype. But then they went, of course, in the definition stage. Have I jumped too many? No, definition. Yeah, and here it's really the design defining what and how you actually deliver this in the project with core stakeholders. And in big projects, yeah, when it gets more complicated, you have a bigger organization, you have most likely here team leaders of the different elements. Yeah? So this depends again on your size. We have a look more at case studies to get a feel for this, yeah, but again, just for now it's good enough to know what and how the project with the core stakeholders will actually perform this part. And then part of that is often as well the procurement. This is often already discussed quite early, but at that point you have to decide. Yeah? So this is quite important. And this is answering certain aspects of who and how long and how much. Yeah? And where do we get this from? Who and how long and how much?
On a construction project, that comes from the engineers basically who are working on it. So they tell you how much of the material they need, and they tell you the time when and where they need the materials and what quantity they need it on that time.
Yeah. Okay, so one way is to plan it, yeah, and take it from the engineering team, yeah, the extended project management team maybe. And especially on construction project where you have a main contractor and then contracted out, it's a good balancing stage, yeah? And especially if you work then not with specialist contractors. If you are on the other side and you work with a lot of specialist technologies where you have no technical know-how and your engineers will be stretched out of comfort, yeah, then you ask that from the bidding companies or the companies that you are working with. So it depends very much on the industry as well. Yeah, in many industries, this is maybe the supply chain. So you basically go through the supply chain and make sure that you know running times, that they know when they have the capacity to actually perform and deliver their part. Yeah? Again, with procurement, there are some industries that have even more refined it. Again, the OD, they do everything. So they even calculate new with their data, yeah, from the. To be fair, they have as well kind of the whole process employed in their staff, to be fair. Yeah? But they update as well how long it takes, for example, to lay a brick, or how long it takes to basically put screws on or to cable in a ship, yeah, the communication cables, which is interesting because then they subcontract it, and then the subcontractor allows the specialist contractors in a certain time to come in and do it. So it's of course not so wonderfully organized as the MOD planned it. They have it like first person pulls the cable, then the next person, and then you put it together and you pull the cable in the right areas. This is of course not how ships are built. Yeah? First guy comes in, puts his cable in, yeah, binds it in, then the next one comes and puts it on, and then it gets a big knot. Yeah? And the last guy is surprised why he needs so many more meters cable than everybody else. Yeah, so that's a wonderful hidden story that you can see with things like that. But this is literally still at the definition stage. And then you have, of course, many ongoing project problems and issues are rooted in the misunderstanding and poor communication at the project definition phase. So it's a little bit what I just discussed. Yeah, and actually Johnson has looked in different industry at this. It's a very good paper if you're interested in it. He has a few case studies, but I think if we go in the seminars a little bit in your experience, we will understand what is actually the issue. Yeah? So when you plan it in a certain way and resources in a certain way, you often imply as well a way of doing it. Yeah? And if that way of doing it is not feasible or not even possible, then you are in big trouble. You have probably designed something in that will run late or become unfeasible at that point. Yeah? Again, any questions, observations? Yeah.
In procurement, the how long also depends on the suppliers. That how long will it take the suppliers to deliver such and such materials?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, so this depends again a little bit on the industry. Yeah. First of all, are your suppliers are they already part of a lean supply chain, yeah, where everybody is ready to jump when you say like we need it now? They come 1 hour later, ideally they step into the building with the right stuff. Yeah? Or is it really that you have to build the organization as well from scratch? Yeah? You have to work with local staff, local teams that may not have worked on a project like that before and may not even know how you want the material. Yeah? This is well an interesting aspect. So we have the whole spectrum at that point. You're a very good comment. Okay, here's what it is. In definition, the guys from NASA were already a little bit ahead. And this was actually a joint venture, which was quite interesting. But nonetheless, so they tested, and I mean, this is just pictures. This is unrepresentative. This is an old spacesuit. Yeah, you can see it's still in a kind of robot arm, yeah, and it's not as flexible and light. And that is the official term is onesie. I'm not sure that that translates very well. It's the suit that you wear under the spacesuit. Yeah? So they tested that, and that is a plane where they basically just dive down, and then you have like an experience of escaping gravity because you fall as quickly to the Earth as the gravity would pull you, and that is how they tested. It's a kind of prototyping of the different technologies that you want to bring in. Yeah? So this is often what you go through as well with your supply chain at the definition stage. Can you give us a prototype that kind of works, that we have an idea where we are going with this? Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah? So we already kind of test a little bit if we can deliver it. If it's a supply chain member or a subcontractor, specialist contractor or whatever, a company that has worked with you before, where you know that they can deliver, then you may not need a prototype. This depends a little bit. Okay, shall we have a brief break at that point? Okay. 10 minutes break? Just like tap it around.